The distress signal. The skies above Nelvera burned with the light of 1,000 explosions as the orbital defense network slowly failed against the relentless Korgan assault. Chief Scientist Ilara Vin watched from the observation deck of the Central Science Academy, her slender six-fingered hands trembling slightly as another defense satellite burst into flames far above. "This is the fourth day," her assistant Torik said quietly beside her. "The inner defense grid cannot hold much longer." Ilara turned away from the viewport, her luminescent violet eyes dimming with sorrow. The Nelveri people had spent millennia developing their civilization, advancing science, medicine, and the arts to remarkable heights. They had created wonders that spanned their solar system, floating cities in the clouds of their gas giants, vast research outposts buried in the ice of their moons, and the magnificent crystalline architecture of their homeworld. And now, the Korgan Empire was systematically destroying it all. "Is the transmitter ready?" she asked, moving purposefully across the laboratory, where her team worked frantically at their stations. "Yes, Chief Scientist," replied Morik, her chief engineer. "Though I must emphasize again that this technology has never been tested at such distances. The quantum entanglement network was designed for communication between our colonies, not to reach across unknown regions of the galaxy." "We have no other choice," Ilara said firmly. "The Korgans have destroyed our conventional communications array. This is our only hope of reaching anyone who might help." The quantum transmitter sat in the center of the laboratory, a gleaming pillar of crystal and rare metals that hummed with barely contained energy. It represented the pinnacle of Nelveri technology, capable of instantly connecting quantum-paired particles across vast distances, bypassing the normal limitations of light-speed communication. Ilara placed her hand on the activation panel and took a deep breath. "Begin recording." The device pulsed with blue light as she spoke. "This is Chief Scientist Ilara Vin of the Nelveri Confederation. Our worlds are under unprovoked attack by the Korgan Empire. They have already destroyed our outer colonies and now assault our homeworld. We are a peaceful species with advanced scientific knowledge, but limited military capabilities. We offer our technological insights freely to any civilization that might come to our aid. Please, we have little time left." With a final gesture, she ended the recording and activated the transmitter. The machine's hum rose to a crescendo as it consumed enormous power, sending her desperate plea across the vast emptiness of space toward any civilization that might be listening. "Will anyone hear us?" Torik asked softly. Ilara looked back toward the viewport where distant explosions continued to flash against the darkening sky. "I don't know. The galaxy is vast, and we are just one voice calling out in the darkness." Commander Sarah Chen rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the console before her. The clock on the wall of mission control at United Earth Space Command Headquarters showed 2:47 hours, another quiet night shift monitoring Earth's deep space surveillance network. At 38, Chen had spent nearly half her life with UESC, rising through the ranks of Earth's unified space program. Her current assignment was supposed to be a respite from the more demanding field duties she performed for years on various outposts throughout the solar system. Monitoring the deep space array was important work, but rarely eventful. That changed in an instant. "Commander." Lieutenant Raj Patel's voice cut through the quiet hum of the control room. "I'm picking up an anomalous signal on multiple frequencies. It's like nothing I've ever seen." Chen was instantly alert, moving to Patel's station. "Natural phenomenon." "Negative, ma'am. It's structured data, incredibly complex. The pattern recognition software is going crazy trying to analyze it." He tapped several commands into his console. "Source appears to be approximately 3,200 light-years from Earth in the Cygnus Arm. That's well beyond our most distant probes," Chen said, frowning. "Are you suggesting?" "Yes, ma'am," Pidal interrupted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I believe this is a transmission of artificial origin. Non-human." Chen felt her heart rate accelerate. Humanity had been searching for signs of intelligent extraterrestrial life for centuries. Despite numerous exoplanet discoveries and tantalizing hints of microbial life within the solar system, definitive proof of advanced alien civilizations had remained elusive. "Get Admiral Reyes on the line immediately," she ordered, "and begin running this through all our translation protocols." Within 30 minutes, the primary situation room at UESC headquarters had filled with bleary-eyed officers and civilian specialists called from their beds. Admiral Elena Reyes, director of UESC, stood at the head of the conference table as the signal played through the room's speakers, now partially decoded into visual and audio components. The holographic display showed a slender humanoid figure with iridescent blue-violet skin and large expressive eyes. Its translated message echoed through the stunned silence of the room. When the message ended, no one spoke for several long moments. "Could this be some kind of hoax?" asked General William Hayes of the Earth Defense Force, breaking the silence. "Or perhaps a misunderstanding of the data?" Dr. Maya Okafor, UESC's chief xenolinguist, shook her head. "The translation algorithms are preliminary, of course, but the linguistic structures are consistent and coherent. This is a genuine communication from a non-human intelligence, requesting assistance against an aggressive force. Even if it's genuine, what exactly are we supposed to do about it?" Hayes demanded. "They're over 3,000 light-years away. Even our fastest ships would take decades to reach them." "Actually," interrupted Dr. Marcus Wong, the propulsion systems specialist, "that may not be entirely accurate." All eyes turned to him as he continued. "The Hawking-Chen warp drive has shown promising results in recent tests. The theoretical framework suggests it could achieve factors well beyond our current capabilities. Those drives haven't been cleared for long-range deployment," Hayes argued. "They're experimental at best, dangerous at worst." Admiral Reyes raised a hand to silence the debate. "Dr. Wong, give me your honest assessment. Could our ships reach this civilization in time to make a difference?" Wong hesitated before answering. "With the latest modifications to the warp field generators, yes, I believe so. We could potentially reach their location within 3 to 4 weeks." The room erupted in surprised murmurs. "Even if we could reach them," General Hayes persisted, "what are we supposed to do when we get there? We don't know anything about either of these alien species or the nature of their conflict. For all we know, the aggressors could have legitimate reasons for their actions, or they could be watching the systematic destruction of an innocent civilization." Commander Chen countered, unable to remain silent any longer. "A civilization that reached out to us specifically for help." Admiral Reyes stood silently for a moment, weighing the arguments. The decision before her was momentous, potentially the most significant in human history. Earth had maintained a unified government for less than a century. Their ventures beyond the solar system were still in their infancy, and now they faced a choice that would define humanity's first major interaction with extraterrestrial civilizations. "We've spent generations looking up at the stars," Rice said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "Wondering if we were alone, hoping we weren't. Now we know for certain that we're not alone, and the first thing we hear is a cry for help." She looked around the table. "What does that say about us if we choose to ignore it?" She straightened. Decision made. "Commander Chen, assemble a response team. General Hayes, I want the 7th Fleet prepared for immediate departure. Dr. Wong, you and your team will need to prepare those experimental drives for full deployment." She paused. "This will be dangerous. We don't know what we're flying into. But if we don't answer this call, who will?" The news spread quickly across Earth and its colonies. Humanity had received a distress call from the stars, and they were answering it. In orbiting shipyards above Earth, Mars, and the Jovian moons, vessels were hastily retrofitted with experimental warp drives. Weapons systems were checked and rechecked. Military personnel and civilian specialists alike volunteered in unprecedented numbers. Aboard the UES Prometheus, Earth's most advanced battlecruiser, Captain Michael Okonkwo supervised the frantic preparations. As the flagship of the response fleet, the Prometheus would lead humanity's first venture beyond the solar system in defense of another species. Engineering reports the warp drive modifications are complete, Captain, reported Commander Layla Sharif, his executive officer. Dr. Wong himself supervised the final calibrations. And the rest of the fleet? Okonkwo asked, studying the tactical display where 15 ships of varying sizes and configurations formed up around the Prometheus. All report ready for departure, sir, Sharif confirmed. Though engineering across the fleet is expressing concerns about sustained warp travel at these speeds. Okonkwo nodded. The modified warp drives would be pushed far beyond their tested limits. The journey would be dangerous. Perhaps as dangerous as whatever awaited them at their destination. Have all ships acknowledged the risk assessment? He asked. Yes, sir. Every captain has confirmed. They're all volunteers. Okonkwo studied the tactical display one more time. 15 ships against an unknown enemy force of unknown size and capability. It wasn't much, but it was all humanity could muster on such short notice. Send to all ships, he said, straightening in his command chair. Prepare for departure on my mark. We make history today. As the countdown reached 0, the 16 ships of Earth's first interstellar response fleet vanished in flashes of distorted space-time, leaving the solar system behind and carrying humanity's hopes toward distant stars. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Nelvari still fought for survival, not knowing if their desperate message had been heard, or if anyone was coming to their aid. They thought no one would come. They were wrong. Unexpected defenders. 28 days of travel through the warped fabric of space had taken its toll on the Earth fleet. 3 ships had been forced to drop back to conventional drive after their experimental warp engines failed, their crews knowing they would arrive decades too late to make any difference. The remaining 12 vessels pushed onward, their engines screaming in protest as they tore through space at velocities that defied conventional physics. On the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Captain Michael Okonkwo studied the readouts with growing concern. Hull integrity at 82%, reported Lieutenant Kamila Novak from the engineering station. Warp field fluctuations increasing. Dr. Wong recommends we drop to normal space soon or risk catastrophic drive failure. We're almost there, Okonkwo replied, his eyes fixed on the navigational display. Status of the fleet. Commander Sharif looked up from her console. All ships reporting similar strain, Captain. The Melbourne and the Shenzhen are experiencing more severe degradation, but their captains confirm they can hold formation. Very well. Prepare for transition to normal space on my mark. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Okonkwo. We're approaching the Nelvari system. Remember, we don't know what we'll find when we arrive. Our priority is to assess the situation and provide assistance to the Nelvari if they still resist the Korgan forces. Weapons hot, but hold fire unless fired upon. Dropping to normal space in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Reality reasserted itself in a cascading wave of quantum effects as the 12 ships of the Earth fleet emerged into normal space at the edge of the Nelvari system. The immediate sensor data painted a grim picture. Multiple vessels detected in orbit around the third planet, reported Lieutenant Commander Tanaka, the tactical officer, based on the energy signatures and configuration patterns from the Nelvari transmission. I'm reading approximately 30 Korgan warships forming a blockade. Planetary defense systems appear heavily damaged or inoperative. I'm detecting isolated pockets of resistance on the surface and in low orbit. Any sign of Nelvari ships? Negative, Captain. Only wreckage. Okonkwo's jaw tightened. Have the Korgans detected us? Not yet, sir. Our emergence point is outside their primary sensor range, and our heat signatures are masked by the system's outer asteroid field. Good. That gives us an advantage. Okonkwo studied the tactical display, his mind racing through options. The Korgan forces outnumbered them more than 2 to 1, and likely possess technology beyond Earth's current capabilities. A direct confrontation would be suicide. But they hadn't come this far to retreat. Send to all ships. Form up on attack pattern Echo 7. It was a formation designed for asymmetrical engagement against superior forces, maximizing the fleet's mobility while minimizing their exposure to enemy fire. Commander Sharif, open a channel to the planet. Let's see if anyone's still alive down there. For several tense minutes, they transmitted on all frequencies, using the translation algorithms developed during their journey. Just as Okonkwo began to fear they had arrived too late, the communication station lit up. "Captain, we're receiving a response." Lieutenant Reed announced. "Weak signal, but definitely of Nelvari origin." The main view screen activated to show the face of the Nelvari, similar to the one from the original transmission, but with visible injuries and exhaustion evident in its features. "This is Torek, assistant to Chief Scientist Ilara Vin of the Nelvari Confederation," the translated voice said, disbelief coloring its tone. "Who? What are you?" "I am Captain Michael Okonkwo of the United Earth Space Command vessel Prometheus," Okonkwo replied. "We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance." The Nelvari's large eyes widened in shock. "You received our message, but we sent it across such a vast distance. We never truly believed anyone would hear us, let alone come to our aid." "We heard you," Okonkwo said simply. "What's your situation?" Torek's expression darkened. "Critical. The Korgans have destroyed our defense fleet and orbital platforms. They maintain a blockade while ground forces establish landing zones. Our few remaining military units are concentrated around the Central Science Academy, where we protect our knowledge repositories and civilian shelters." "And Chief Scientist Vin?" "Deceased," Torek replied, grief evident despite the translation. "She remained at her post during a direct assault on the Academy 3 days ago. Her sacrifice allowed many of us to reach the underground bunkers." Okonkwo nodded solemnly. "Her message reached across the stars. We'll ensure her sacrifice wasn't in vain." He turned to his tactical officer. "Commander Tanaka, what's our optimal approach?" "The Korgan vessels are concentrated in standard blockade formation, Captain. They appear to be rotating ships between orbital positions and ground assault operations. If we approach from the system's ecliptic, using the planet's moon for cover, we could potentially surprise their command ships before they can organize a coordinated response." "Agreed. We'll—" "Captain." Lieutenant Novak interrupted from the engineering station. "The Korgan vessels are altering their positions. I think they've detected us." On the tactical display, the Korgan ships were indeed breaking formation, several moving rapidly toward the Earth fleet's position. "So much for surprise," Okonkwo muttered. "All ships, battle stations. Execute attack pattern Echo 7. Full advance." The 12 Earth vessels accelerated toward the Nelvari homeworld, their formation spreading into a three-dimensional matrix designed to divide enemy attention and firepower. The Prometheus led the charge, its experimental shields already at maximum power. The first Korgan shots came moments later, purple-tinged energy blasts that streaked across the void. 2 found their mark on the Prometheus, causing the ship to shudder violently. "Shields holding at 86%, reported Novak. "Their weapons technology is advanced, but not beyond our defensive capabilities." "Return fire," Okonkwo ordered. "Target their lead vessels." The Earth fleet's weapons blazed in response, railguns launching hypervelocity projectiles, energy weapons releasing concentrated beams of destructive force. 3 smaller Korgan vessels took direct hits, one breaking apart in a spectacular explosion when a railgun round penetrated what appeared to be its power core. "Their shields are strongest at their forward sections," Tanaka observed, "but substantially weaker along their ventral surfaces." "Relay that to all ships," Okonkwo commanded. "Adjust targeting parameters accordingly." The space around the Nelvari homeworld erupted into chaotic battle as the Earth fleet engaged the Korgan blockade. Though outnumbered and facing unknown technology, the human vessels fought with surprising effectiveness, their captains quickly adapting to Korgan tactics and exploiting weaknesses as they were discovered. The Korgans are regrouping, Sheriff reported after 20 minutes of intense combat. They're forming a defensive perimeter around their command ship. Okonkwo studied the tactical display. The Earth fleet had lost 2 vessels. The Melbourne destroyed outright, the Jakarta disabled, but with crew evacuating to other ships. In exchange, they had destroyed or disabled 7 Korgan vessels. Better than expected, but still leaving them heavily outnumbered. They're marshaling their forces for a coordinated counterattack, Tanaka warned. Based on their energy readings, I believe their command ship is preparing a significant weapons discharge. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Okonkwo ordered. Prepare for. Before he could finish, a massive energy pulse erupted from the Korgan command ship, expanding outward in a devastating wave. 3 Earth vessels couldn't evade in time. Their shields flared brilliantly before collapsing, leaving the ships drifting in damage. What in hell was that? Okonkwo demanded. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon, Novak replied. It specifically targeted our shield harmonics. They're learning our weaknesses too. Okonkwo grimaced. The remaining 7 Earth ships were now facing 21 intact Korgan vessels, including their command ship with its devastating pulse weapon. Sir, Tanaka said quietly, conventional tactics suggest we should withdraw and regroup. Conventional tactics didn't bring us across 3,000 light years, Okonkwo replied. He activated the fleet-wide channel again. All ships, this is Okonkwo. We came here to save a civilization from extinction. That mission hasn't changed. He paused. New formation. Spearhead protocol. Commander Sharif looked up in surprise. Captain, Spearhead hasn't been tested outside of simulations. It's extraordinarily risky. So is letting the Korgans gather their strength for another attack, Okonkwo countered. Sometimes the only way through hell is straight ahead. The Spearhead protocol was an experimental tactic developed specifically for situations where Earth vessels faced overwhelming numerical disadvantage. It called for the fleet to form a tight arrowhead formation with their strongest vessel at the point, concentrating all shield power forward while using the formation's geometry to maintain overlapping fields of defensive fire. The 7 remaining Earth ships rapidly rearranged into the Spearhead formation with the Prometheus at its tip, driving directly toward the heart of the Korgan fleet, specifically toward their command ship. They're preparing another pulse, Novak warned. Redirect all non-essential power to forward shields, Okonkwo ordered, and prepare the Alcubierre charge. The Alcubierre charge was the most experimental weapon in Earth's arsenal, essentially a focused burst of the same warped space-time used by their faster-than-light drives. In theory, it could temporarily destabilize matter at the quantum level, potentially bypassing enemy shields entirely. In practice, it had never been deployed in actual combat. The Korgan pulse weapon fired again, washing over the Spearhead formation's concentrated shields. The ships shuddered violently, but held formation. Shields at 41% and falling, Novak reported. We can't sustain another hit like that. We won't have to, Okonkwo said grimly. Range to Korgan command ship. 8,000 kilometers in closing, Tanaka replied. Their escort vessels are moving to intercept. Ignore them. All weapons, focus fire on clearing a path to the command ship. Okonkwo watched as the distance rapidly decreased. 5,000 kilometers. 4,000. The Korgan vessels fired continuously now, their weapons impacting the rapidly failing shields of the Earth formation. Warning indicators flashed across multiple stations as systems began to fail under the assault. 3,000 kilometers. 2,000. Their pulse weapon is charging again, Novak shouted. All ships, execute Sidewinder, Okonkwo ordered. In perfect synchronization, the 7 Earth vessels abruptly broke formation, scattering in different directions just as the Korgan pulse fired, passing through the space they had occupied moments before. The maneuver left the Prometheus on a direct course for the Korgan command ship, now less than 1,000 kilometers away and momentarily vulnerable after discharging its main weapon. Alcubierre charge status, Okonkwo demanded. Charged and ready, Tanaka confirmed. But we need to be closer for maximum effect. Take us in. All remaining power to engines and the charge. The Prometheus surged forward, its weapons blazing at anything in its path. Secondary explosions rocked the ship as Korgan weapons found their mark against the vessel's failing shields. 500 kilometers. 300. A massive explosion rocked the Prometheus as a direct hit penetrated the shields. Hull breach on decks 4 through 6, Sheriff reported. Emergency containment holding, but we're losing thrust capacity. Keep us on course, Okonkwo insisted, gripping his command chair as the ship shuddered around him. 200 kilometers. 100. The Korgan command ship loomed large on the view screen now, its massive weapons ports beginning to glow as they recharged. 50 kilometers. Tanaka announced. Optimal firing range achieved. Fire the Alcubierre charge, Okonkwo ordered. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, reality itself appeared to bend between the Prometheus and the Korgan command ship. A rippling distortion expanded outward, intersecting with the massive alien vessel. Where the distortion passed, matter simply ceased to function normally. The perfect sphere, approximately 200 meters in diameter, materialized within the Korgan ship, encompassing its central command structure and primary power systems. Within that sphere, the laws of physics temporarily rewrote themselves. The effect lasted only seconds, but when normal space reasserted itself, that section of the command ship simply collapsed inward, as if an impossibly precise bite had been taken from its structure. Secondary explosions cascaded throughout the vessel as systems failed catastrophically. Direct hit, Tanaka reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. Korgan command ship's primary systems are failing. They're losing power across all sections. On the tactical display, the effect was immediate. Without their command vessel coordinating the attack, the Korgan fleet's movements became disjointed. Some ships continued to fight, while others began moving away from the battle. The remaining Earth vessels are pressing the advantage, Sheriff reported. The Korgan formation is breaking apart. Okonkwo allowed himself a small smile. Open a channel to the surface. Torik's face appeared on screen again, his expression one of astonishment. The Korgan blockade is falling, Okonkwo told him. We can't promise to eliminate them entirely, but we've created an opening. If your people have evacuation protocols or reinforcements that can be called in, now would be the time. You've done the impossible, Torik replied. We've already contacted our hidden outposts in the outer system. Rescue vessels are preparing to launch. He paused. Chief Scientist Vin believed someone would answer our call. I doubted, but she never did. Then her faith was rewarded. Okonkwo said, We'll maintain position as long as possible to cover your evacuation operations. Over the next several hours, the remaining Earth vessels continued to engage Korgan ships, forcing them steadily away from the planet, while Nelvari evacuation ships rose from the surface. Their escape would not be total. Many Nelvari would remain on their homeworld. But their civilization's knowledge, their leaders, and many of their people would survive. 3 days later, as Nelvari vessels carried refugees toward hidden colonies and outposts, representatives from both species met aboard the damaged but functional Prometheus. Torik, now speaking on behalf of the Nelvari Provisional Council, addressed the gathered Earth officers. We can never fully express our gratitude. When we sent our message into the void, we did so with little hope that you would come so far, risking so much for a species you had never encountered. He trailed off, overcome with emotion. Captain Okonkwo, his left arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the battle, nodded respectfully. We answered your call because it was the right thing to do. Humanity hasn't always lived up to its highest ideals, but when we heard your plea across the stars, we knew we couldn't stand by while your civilization was extinguished. The Korgan threat remains, Commander Sharif pointed out. They'd withdrawn temporarily, but they will return. Yes, Torek agreed. But now we know we are not alone in standing against them. As promised in our message, we offer our scientific knowledge freely to your people. Our advances in quantum communications, energy generation, and medical technology will benefit humanity greatly. He paused. And perhaps when we have rebuilt our strength, our species might stand together against threats like the Korgans. I believe that's a discussion our respective governments will be eager to have, Okonkwo replied with a smile. But first, we have wounded to tend to, ships to repair, and a very long journey home ahead of us. As the meeting concluded, Okonkwo made his way to the observation deck of the Prometheus. Through the viewport, he could see the Nelvari homeworld, parts of it still bearing the scars of Korgan bombardment, but already showing signs of recovery as remaining defense systems came back online, and Nelvari emergency teams worked to restore their civilization. Commander Sharif joined him at the viewport. Quite a view, isn't it, Captain? Indeed it is, Commander. He turned to face her. Our ancestors looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. They dreamed of contact with other intelligent life, imagined what that moment would mean for humanity. I don't think many of them imagined first contact would involve us fighting a war on behalf of strangers. Sharif observed wryly. Perhaps not. But what better introduction to the galaxy could there be? We didn't come as conquerors or exploiters. We came because someone needed help, and we could provide it. He looked back toward the planet. That says something important about who we are as a species. In the weeks that followed, as the Earth fleet prepared for their long journey home, news of their victory spread throughout the Nelvari colonies and outposts. The story grew with each telling. How humans, a species previously unknown to the galaxy at large, had traveled an impossible distance to answer a desperate plea. How they had faced the dreaded Korgan Empire without hesitation. How they had turned the tide when all hope seemed lost. They thought no one would come to their aid. They were wrong. Humanity had arrived like a storm from distant stars, unexpected, powerful, and changing the galaxy forever.